Hi there. It's December 14th, and let's do Luke 14 in our Christmas through Luke series. So over there, we'll get right into it. One Sabbath day when Jesus went to eat dinner in the home of a leader of the Pharisees, and the people were watching him closely, there was a man there whose arms and legs were swollen. Jesus asked the Pharisees and experts in religious law, "Is it permitted in the law to heal people on the Sabbath day or not?" When they refused to answer, Jesus touched the sick man and healed him and sent him away. Then he turned to them and said, "Which of you doesn't work on the Sabbath? If your son or your cow falls into a pit, don't you rush to get him out?" Again, they could not answer. Jesus teaches about humility. When Jesus noticed that all who had come to the dinner were trying to sit in the seats of honor near the head of the table, he gave them this advice. When you are invited to a wedding feast, don't sit in the seat of honor. What if someone is more distinguished than you has also been invited? The host will come and say, "Give this person your seat." Then you will be embarrassed, and you will have to take whatever seat is left at the foot of the table. Now, Solomon talked about this subject a lot in the Proverbs study we've been doing. Instead, take the lowest place at the foot of the table. Then when your host sees you, he will come and say, "Friend, we have a better place for you." Then you will be honored in front of all the other guests. For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. I like that. He said that's right out of Proverbs. That's right out of Proverbs right there. Then he turned to his host. "When you put on a luncheon or a banquet," he said, "don't invite your friends, brothers, relatives, or rich neighbors, for they will invite you back, and that will be your only reward. Instead, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind. Then, at the resurrection of the righteous, God will reward you for inviting those who could not repay you." Have that? Parable of the Great Feast. Hearing this, a man sitting at the table with Jesus exclaimed, "What a blessing it will be to attend a banquet in the kingdom of God." Jesus replied with this story. A man prepared a great feast and sent out many invitations. When the banquet was ready, he sent his servant to tell all the guests, "Come, the banquet is ready." But they all began making excuses. One said, "I have just bought a field and must inspect it. Please excuse me." Another said, "I have just bought 5 pairs of oxen and I want to try them out. Please excuse me." Another said, "I just got married, so I can't come." The servant returned and told his master what they said. His master was furious and said, "Go quickly into the streets and alleys of the town and invite the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame." After the servant had done this, he reported, "There is still room for more." So his master said, "Go out into the country lanes behind the hedges and urge anyone you find to come, so that the house will be full. For none of those I first invited will get even the smallest taste of my banquet." Yeah. The cost of being a disciple. Are you ready for this? A large crowd was following Jesus. He turned around and said to them, "If you want to be my disciple, you must, by comparison, hate everyone else. Your father, your mother, your wife, and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even your own life. Otherwise, you cannot be my disciple. And if you do not want to carry your own cross and follow me, you cannot be my disciple." Okay. There's been a lot of questions about this particular verse right here. And a lot of this is meant there, this by comparison is meant, okay, in all the other versions. This is one of the few that says by comparison. The other one just says, if you want to be my disciple, you must hate everyone else. And, I was confused, and I did a lot of research on this in another study. It's your love for Jesus should be so much that it doesn't even compare to your love for your family, brothers, sisters, father, mother, even your own life. You need to love Jesus that much. Okay, he should be the most important thing to you over everything else. All right? But don't begin until you count the cost. For who would begin construction of a building without first calculating the cost to see if there is enough money to finish it? Otherwise, you might complete only the foundation before running out of money, and then everyone would laugh at you. They would say, "There's a person who started that building and couldn't afford to finish it." Or what king would go to war against another king without first sitting down with his counselors to discuss whether his army of 10,000 could defeat 20,000 soldiers marching against him? If he can't, he will send a delegation to discuss terms of peace while the enemy is still far away. So you cannot become my disciple without giving up everything you own. Christ needs to be that important. Okay? Salt is good for seasoning, but if it loses its flavor, how do you make it salty again? Flavorless salt is good neither for the soil nor for the manure pile. It is thrown away. Anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand. Okay? So, the cost of being a disciple. What does it cost you? Everything. Just that simple. It costs you everything. He should be the most important thing in your life above all else. That's hard to do. Mm-hmm. A lot of people. That's why when he told the parable of the farmer, he scattered seeds on the road and they get brushed away and with the thorns, and they grow up and life chokes it out and it dies. You need to sacrifice everything. He was on the Sabbath. Talks about humility. In our Proverbs studies, one of the overriding themes of the whole thing is to be humble. Always be humble. Don't brag. Don't shout. Just be humble. Be quiet. Keep your mouth shut. That's in there a lot. Let other people do the talking. But make Jesus the most important thing in your life. Above all else. Okay? Above all else. That's Luke 14 for December 14th. We'll continue this right up to Christmas Eve. So, until next time, have a good day. See you later.